today on Away and Abroad, it's going to be a very different topic from what this show is normally about, but I'm going to just hold you hostage for a little bit and talk about my thoughts on Dancing with the Stars now that the season has wrapped up. This is sort of in response to the Call Her Daddy episode by Alex Cooper when she interviewed Whitney Leavitt and Mark Ballas. By the way, I just got a haircut. I don't know why I keep recording episodes right after I got a haircut. I know I look like a pencil, so it's gonna grow out, okay? If you've watched Fleabag, you'll understand that reference. Okay, the point is, I just wanted to share some thoughts with anyone who's interested, because it feels like a lot more people have been watching the show, and I have been watching. I looked back over the seasons, and I think I've been watching it ever since season 8 when Shawn Johnson and Mark Ballas won. Either that or for sure season 10 with Nicole Scherzinger and Derek Hough as winners. This season, they just passed their 20-year birthday, 20-year mark. And so I thought it would be really fun to talk about it, because there are a couple people who have debriefed the show, but I see it mostly from like old pros like PETA and Max, and there's this one guy I think in LA who's interviewed all of the casts and surrounding people. The reason why I wanted to share is I wanted to explain some theories that I have about the show and the way that it's a reality TV show. And there's like a lot of confusion, it seems, of like why certain people are excelling, why people get eliminated early. And I just want to talk about how, yes, frustrating it is as a viewer. And if anyone's been watching since Bobby Bones won, people may have been learning about what happened, where Bobby Bones was a radio host and he had such a huge fan base, and he won mostly, I would say entirely, because of votes, because he was not good. He was not good. And that's why it's a really big deal that Whitney Carson won with Robert Irwin this season, because she was basically expected to win with Milo. So that was probably the biggest turning point for me, where I was like, this is just frustrating to watch, because I think up until that point there weren't really voting. I don't know which season voting came into play, but I think as soon as that happened, it changed. And I don't know if that was for the better, because up until that point, you have to look at it from like a producer standpoint, where they're picking people based on what they think people like, and that is a lot easier to measure these days when you look at people's TikTok and Instagram followers. You literally have that data right in front of you. Whereas before, they would pick someone like Shawn Johnson, where it's like, okay, she's definitely like in a hot moment right now because she's in the Olympics, or like a movie star that maybe isn't the biggest, but maybe they're in something current. And so once they were able to get people's information from follower accounts, that made it so easy for them to kind of do A plus B equals C. A, they've got this person. B, they have this exact number of followers. C, it's likely that these people will vote for them. So they can almost count a certain number will vote for these people. So it's like it doesn't quite help with the frustration, but it makes it make sense. When people stay on longer who like do not have the experience, or they don't have the capability to go as far as they are. So in some ways, I feel for the producers, because they are using their best guess of how to find somebody who is capable of going as far as their followers will get them. I think Bobby Bones, which is a huge fail from a producer standpoint, because they kept him on, but could he deliver? Now, I really want to talk about Mark Ballas. So since I've been watching the show for so long, I have seen his choreography and I've seen him win many times, and people had a lot to say, and he defended himself too about like why he should be able to just like come in and out of the show, it seems, whenever he wants to. And here's the thing, I'm sure you know by now, but his mom, Shirley Ballas, is like a well-known teacher and just icon in the ballroom world. I don't even know that much about it, but I know about her, and I know that he and Derek were essentially raised and trained together, along with Julian Huff. And so when you think about, again, looking at it from like a money-making standpoint, which when these shows are confusing to you, you just have to like literally follow the money. So as a producer, Mark has this reputation of winning the show multiple times, of being such a great teacher. He's not like Max Schmarkowski, who's like this bully. There's like so much footage online that's like resurfacing of him just being mean to his stars. Mark seems so kind, and so he's like good with people. He can meet them where they're at, tailor the dances to their ability and everything. And so sure, you could argue there's a bit of nepotism with all the connections he has, but he does a great job. And in the Call Her Daddy episode, he said that he stepped away from the show for personal reasons. Some of them being that he was on Broadway for a few years. He's a great actor and singer, and he like stepped away to start a family and had injuries along the way, so wasn't at his like prime anymore to like really do the show. And so when he came back with Charlie D'Amelio, yes, it seems like with Charlie and then with Whitney Leavitt, his most recent partner, I can see why it looks like he just comes in and gets these fantastic people who have the ability and the following to take them far. So it seems like he gets first dibs, but also you really just don't get an opinion until you've seen all of his dances, because he is, like I said, so talented. And I'm not saying like all the other male pros aren't talented, but like the way that he choreographs, the little details and like the expressions between the steps is what I think he's so good at. He just is so expressive and really colors the dances. Like he's a really good showman, I would describe him as. And he's literally been on Broadway. And so, yes, it seems like, okay, he just comes in and gets like someone with dance experience. And it's like that whole argument too is really ridiculous, because yes, it is frustrating. But again, from a producer standpoint, you need to be able to bank on people being able to dance. You would choose people who have some ability to move over someone who you have no idea. Why would you do that? That makes no sense. From a producer standpoint, you need the show to work, and you need it to work for the duration of the time that it airs. So like, again, I get it, but Dancing with the Stars doesn't guarantee dancing with the stars that have no dance experience. Ballroom is such a niche style. Like, I've learned it because I really love it and I'm really curious about it, but not many people do. It's really not a common way to pass time or go out and learn. It is more expensive, so there is like that barrier too. I think that's it on Mark, and I'm sure anyone who follows me isn't a bully online, but like, seriously, before you put out an opinion and he even read a comment that was just so nonsensical. And I think, getting into Whitney now, I think it really comes down to people not being able to stand average people, quote unquote, succeeding and getting their chance in the limelight. Because this is the frustrating part about reality TV. Anyone could, in theory, go on a show and get super famous. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, it almost feels possible, but it's just like, but why didn't it happen to me? And so I don't know if that's like what people are feeling that fuels them to be hateful online. But there was just really some vile comments that Mark was reading, and I'm just like, do people really have nothing about, like, go take a ballroom dance class? I think you should put the phone down and go take an entry free class you can surely find somewhere in your community. So yeah, then getting into Whitney, I really didn't know that much about her at all. I haven't seen The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I can imagine and like see how people can like perceive her being kind of a bitch based on like the tiny details I've heard of different interactions of like, because Jen, her co-star, wanted to be on Dancing with the Stars, then she did too, or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. But what I will say is that I'm surprising myself, and I think I'm just for her. I'm for Jen too. I'm for Whitney. But with Whitney, you can just see it on her facial expressions. You can see it in the way she moves. Like she just feels very comfortable on stage, it looks like. And she has a knack for like turning it on and really performing. And that's the thing with any kind of performance, is like, can you deliver? And like, it's about a show, you know. It's not enough to just do the steps that you were taught. It's like, can you perform? And she was so good. And you know, they were able to address the like ticket giveaway and stuff, which I was like, yeah, that was kind of ridiculous and like kind of short-sighted on their end. But I don't think it was like sinister, you know, like, oh my gosh, like burn them at the stake. So I want to talk about her freestyle. And like people had comments about that too, where they're like, oh, why can't you just wait to like drop this like farther after like the winner? I'm like, people. I really can't sometimes. Anyway, the dance was so good, and I'm glad we got to see that. I really enjoyed seeing it. I thought it was so her, and again speaks to Mark's incredible choreography and his imagination. The way I felt, I like literally cried twice. Like I watched it over and cried at the part where she was like, they kind of brought her to the floor and she was getting up and Mark was like picking her up, and so it was like this very tender moment of him like guiding her across the floor. Like, gonna cry again. Maybe this is what ballroom dance ultimately means to me too. And it has to do a little bit with religion, because when I was growing up, it was like all dancing was forbidden. Basically, any music was, you know, we couldn't listen to it. And ballroom was sort of, when I was still religious, I was looking for ways to kind of like, you know, the gray areas where I'm like, oh, well, you know, there's like, you're not really like touching too much. And like swing dancing is very like, you know, at a respectful distance. And I learned ballroom when I was like 16, I think. And then when I was 19, I started taking classes. It just felt like I found a piece of myself that I wasn't able to be my whole life growing up. And I just felt like it was like the most beautiful expression of partnership and collaboration between two people. And with Whitney, from the very small bit that I know of her, was raised Mormon, went to school for dance for college, and then got married probably young and had 3 kids. And I just feel like for me, that was a life that I feel like I was saved from. And I get that is some people's dreams, and that's great. But it actually meant a lot to me to see someone to be able to come out on the other side, and not saying she's not Mormon anymore, but to have the chance to express herself, because that's just like exactly how I felt. Like I feel like her inside. I feel like I'm dramatic. I love to dance like that. I don't do it often, but That's what dance feels like to me. I just felt very proud of her. To me, everyone should be happy to see someone else just come alive at doing what they love. And if that's something else, great, but I think everybody has that. And I think people these days are just very repressed, either by their own lack of curiosity or lack of opportunity. So I think, again, the hate that she gets is probably out of jealousy. But to focus on the dance that they did, I just felt like, when Mark picked her up and they were dancing around, and it was just like so empowering for her to see that like blossom, that like high and low. And again, with like the social media aspect that Mark brought in with like the phones and everyone scrutinizing her, and then her just like coming out on top. And the song choice, like doing it my way, I'm just like, everything was just, it felt so perfect. So that's what I have to say about Whitney. And I honestly don't know that much about her beyond this kind of high level assessment. But I'm like, you know what? Good for her. And I think she was also accused of like saying on the show of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that she only wanted to do that show to be put on Dancing with the Stars. And it's like, I mean, it's the whole Bachelor situation all over again, where you're like, oh, is this person on for real, right reasons? And it's like, really? Do you really think people are on this show for 6 weeks and you think they're going to get married to someone they barely know? I don't know. With reality TV, it's sort of like, I've waffled over the years because I'm just like, what's really possible anymore? And with social media, it's like, of course, everyone has to shoot their shot at like the chance to make money, the chance to be famous, I don't know. I'm just like, whatever. I guess one more point about Whitney and Mormonism and like getting married. Again, I want to say that like it is some people's dreams and it is a beautiful thing. I think the thing that breaks my heart about it is that when you're in the religion, and I'm sure there's other religions too, it's like you are just taught that this is the best thing you could possibly do, is get married and have kids. And it's just, the way I see it is like, it's an option. It is something you can do. Do I think it's like the ultimate? No, and it's like, I think I kind of feel sad for her in a way, because it's like, who could have she been all this time if she had that freedom to go to New York or LA or something and try something like right out of the gate without having kids. But it also goes to show people like me that like you can do things at any time too. She has the opportunity to do that now. So it's like never a waste. But I think it's just like that sort of bittersweet, like, I think that I can't speak for her, but I know I went through like a lot of like inner turmoil of like deciding, and like being like, no, it's okay if I follow my path and follow my heart. If it doesn't mean marriage and kids for now or forever, like it's just about choice. And I think sometimes young women in religion don't always they have the freedom, like people in religion wouldn't say like, no, you cannot do this or that necessarily, but it's like, do they have freedom of the mind to believe that this is possible for themselves at any time? That's my final pin on that. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is Robert, and just kind of like how I knew, and many people probably knew, he was going to be the winner from the start. And again, this is just more of like a producer, how the show works kind of standpoint, is because he has more followers than any of the cast. So it's like I said before, with like your fan base carrying you all the way to the end. Then not only that, but like looking at the demographic of his fan base, right? So it's like people who are a little bit older knew Steve and were really connected to Steve, and that's why they brought him up so much. Like I feel bad for him, because it was almost like does he know he's being used by production? It's like, he framed it, of course, as like this opportunity, and it is for him. And it's also an opportunity for the show. I mean, I think he literally turned 21 this year. So it feels like they were just sort of like waiting for that, like, time to come. But then he luckily was capable and could do the dancing. So it's like his older followers from his dad, then maybe the middle age range of people who followed Bindi when she won, his older sister. I think it was 11 years ago. And then whoever his followers are now. So it's like, from a data standpoint, he was in the bag from day one. And then also, kind of a caveat to that, I noticed that I think his shirt came off one time, like, and I don't think he ever did a rumba. So he also wasn't super like hypersexualized on the show, and that could have been his own preference. I think Bindi was pretty conservative too. But again, looking at the demographic that follows him, I think if they had done that more, it would have been a turnoff. Or like, and they did it like halfway through, where it's like, okay, people were offended by that, then they could recover, a few weeks after if it made a difference. But I remember when I think it was a salsa or something, and he took his shirt off, and it was like this kind of like sexual moment, and then that was it. And again, like I said, no rumba, which is a very like steamy, and so I kind of missed that. Like in the old version of the show, they would do like every single dance where everyone had to do it, and now I feel like they just lean into a lot more salsa, cha-cha. Maybe they do more contemporary more than they used to, because that's something that's like, the rules are a little bit looser with that one. So I think those are kind of my initial thoughts. I just wanted to explain my theories about like why people are on the show and all of that, because I think that pros can't really talk about it like that. They can't be like, you guys, it's all about the money, but it is. It's a show, But yeah, I mean, obviously Robert was the perfect person because he's like so charming and genuine, and like he was a deserved winner for sure. I think Jordan was incredible. She did such a good job, and I saw a comment that said someone was like, it was like too good. They knew she wasn't gonna win, or it was like kind of so black. Which I'm like, that's what a freestyle should be. And same with Chandler too, like I do think Chandler and Brandon should have won. It's unfortunate because it does feel like people of color are so used on the show, where it's just like, yeah, you're good and that was entertaining, but like, can we crown you the winner? I think black people have won. I remember, let's see, Hines Ward, Alfonso, Rashad Jennings, Jordan Fisher. Yeah, that's interesting. Iman Schubert, Lori Hernandez. I think she's probably Mexican, maybe. It is really frustrating to see Carrie Ann be so critical of women in general and then women of color. It's just like, I don't know, she needs to talk with a coach or something about how to deliver her feedback, because it's like, she used to be like better at just delivering feedback, but now she's probably like in her head about like the booing and then the response online, where she's like, it just seems like she freezes every time. But it's like, you can do a compliment sandwich, you can do like positive, constructive, positive, instead of this like, oh, I just didn't like it. And my sister has said like that she's like leading into this like emotional moment where it's like, oh, I need to like feel something. It's like, can you imagine Len saying that? Like, no, he would just judged by, the content instead of like, did you, move me enough? Because that's so subjective. So I wouldn't mind seeing her swapped out with somebody else. Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to say about Mark Ballas, I think the female pro that's comparable to him is probably Daniela now, but before Sharna Burgess. So you have two YouTube rabbit holes to go down. Mark Ballas, specifically jives and tangos, and Sharna Burgess. And I really think Sharna should have won with James Hinchcliffe. They were so good, and I think they lost to Lori Hernandez, who was good, but they were just so good. But yeah, she also does that little, like, just all the subtle movements, her winks and her facial expression. Her content is so rich. And again, everybody is so good already. So just want to say, and that's the thing, when you're complimenting somebody, it's hard because I think people online are so extreme these days. They're like, oh, well, how could you not remember Brit? And Brit's amazing. Everybody starts off amazing. And then there's just something a little extra special, I think, with Sharna and Mark. Okay. Let me know who your favorites have been, and also maybe comment and let me know, how long have you been watching the show? Because I would love to watch it with more people. I feel like I've been the only one for years, just because it is kind of this, like, historically, like, your grandma's show. But since I have always loved ballroom dancing, it's always been, like, just so fun to watch. So yeah, check it out and we can have a watching party next time.